I'd like to call this council and committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
All members of council are present, Your Worship.
Thank you. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to occupy this area. A couple of very brief announcements. The first is that Councillor McDermott and I were able to attend the grand opening of Left of Central Board Game Cafe, 206 Jarvis Street. A wonderful facility, provides some light snacks, coffee, espresso, hot chocolate, milkshakes, and games. Every game that you can possibly imagine, every game that you think of when you think of your childhood. The place was packed. You can play card games, you can play board games, you can play all kinds of games, and staffed by volunteers. They're open really long hours, almost every day of the week, I believe. And this is an initiative started by Task. Walter DeVoe and Nancy Kaser had the idea. There apparently were two individual large funders who came forward to cover most of the cost of the renovations to the building. They scraped and obtained all kinds of restaurant equipment from all over the place, so it's really quite a facility. I urge everyone to take the opportunity to go there. You can play games, $5, pay $5. You can play games, stay there all day. And you can eat. You have to pay for the food, but you can eat and have a good time. Second thing I wanted to mention is, and I hope that we have an opportunity to recognize his years of service here at a council meeting, and that is that today was the last day of service for Doug Atkins as a volunteer firefighter after 40 years. And looking at his photo, I can see that it's got to be at least 40 years since I first met him. Yes, absolutely. He has the mustache, so he's got that going for him. And but I do want to congratulate and thank him, and I hope that we can do that here at an open council meeting, because he has been an intrepid, steadfast volunteer and the face, really, of firefighting in Crystal Beach over the last 4 decades. Are there any? There are a couple of addendums. The first addendum relates to the deletion of a report relative to a heritage building on Ridge Road in Ridgeway. There's some further information that's going to be made available to council, which will has deferred this report until later on. And the second is an addition. It's changes to the terms of reference for Fort Erie Communities in Bloom. So we'll deal with that when we get to the Planning and Development Services portion of the agenda. And then there's a change to 2 consent agenda reports that relate to the funding requests for 2 new physicians in Fort Erie. Typo error with respect to the commitment that each is making. So it's a 5-year return of service that each of them will be providing to the town for the funding if approved. Okay, that takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? There being none, there is an upcoming public meeting with respect to a property rezoning, South Coast Village Phase 2, Mars Homes, and that will be held on Tuesday, February the 18th, 2020, here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. The information report with respect to that property rezoning will be available on our website on February the 13th, 2020. There are no public meetings this evening. There is a consent agenda. Does anyone wish any of the reports removed from the consent agenda? If not, Councillor Dubanow, you're moving the consent agenda. That is on the floor for questions or comments. No questions, no comments? Councillor Noyes.
In regards to PDS 02-2020, where basically it's the Haggerty Avenue, the draft plan of condominium. My concern is that, and I may be wrong, is that part of this is low-income housing now, if I'm not mistaken. Is that going to change?
It's already, I don't know that it's low, I think it's condominium already, isn't that? Ms. Dolch?
Through you to the councillor, yes, it is already condominium.
Oh, okay.
But if it's being rented out, is it, do we know what the rates are?
Sorry, no, I don't.
Have any information on that? Councillor Dubanow? No. Any other questions? Mr. Cookett, I had a question with respect to the NRBN report, which is IS 0320. And I know that there was a lot of discussion, negotiations that took place between our staff and Niagara Regional Broadband Network. This is the apparently there's a distinction between NRBN, which is not a recognized utility like Bell or Cogeco, and so the other recognized utilities don't have to pay, or we can ask for a fee to review the plans that they submit for installation of their infrastructure. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do those other service providers provide us with plans in advance to let us know where they're going to be installing fiber optics, as an example?
That is correct. The franchise agreement ensures that they submit their plans for our approval.
And do we get a benefit out of their work in the community, other than residents may be able to tap into their service?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So we have had some meetings with both of them, and my understanding is that neither of them currently is looking at expanding fiber optics into underserviced areas. Is that changed?
No, you are correct.
We have had some discussions with NRBN, though, on that topic, have we not?
We have, and we did reach out to them, and we've asked for their 5-year forecast plan, which they were reluctant to provide to us. There has been some discussions about providing high speed to areas in Fort Erie. We're not sure where or when or how much.
Would we have any information with respect to the future plans of Bell or Cogeco, as an example, with respect to where they're going next with fiber optics?
We've had some discussions with them, and there's been areas identified where high speed is currently not available. There again, it's hard to get a commitment from any of these utility companies. I think their focus is probably on the larger municipalities in Niagara and throughout Ontario. So to get a commitment's next to impossible. There has been some pressure from the province for them to start looking at these underserviced areas, especially in urban areas. But as much as some of those utility companies will say that they will provide it and that there's discussions with the town and agreements, those agreements don't specify when that will take place.
And approximately how many plans might we receive from, say, NRBN in the course of a year or 2 years that would have to be reviewed by our staff?
It's a guess, but I would say 4 or 5 maybe at present. Now, I know they want to do more work throughout, so those plan submissions will probably be increased. I'd be guessing at maybe 10 a year.
10 per year?
Correct.
But currently it's about 4 to 5?
That's correct.
And if they install fiber optics, then that provides opportunities for our residents to tap into high-speed internet, correct?
That's a tough question because they have installed some fiber to service a school. That fiber has run behind some houses, and there is a reluctance to tie in those houses because of costs and so forth. But I guess to answer your question, there's a possibility they could tie in, correct?
So shouldn't we be trying to encourage the one fiber optic provider that has shown some interest in servicing our underserviced areas? Shouldn't we be trying to encourage that?
We do, and we try to encourage all of them to provide high-speed internet. It's a necessity for a lot of people. Most people, or a great percentage of people now, are running their business from their homes. So there is a great need for that, absolutely. So we've met with them, as you know, and we're trying to encourage all of them to install high-speed throughout the town.
And insofar as I know $400 doesn't seem like a lot of money, and even if it was 10 per year, that's $4,000. But that would mean there'd be a lot more fiber optic in Fort Erie than there currently is, if in fact they did 10 areas. wouldn't it be fair for them to have the same playing field as their larger competitors, Cogeco, Bell? They're not even really competitors. Bell and Cogeco are so much larger. Wouldn't it be fair for them to have the same playing field? That is, not having to pay this fee, this review fee?
Yeah, that's not the approach we took. The approach we took is they're a for-profit organization that makes money. We have a cost to review those plans. We thought the $400 is a very minimal amount to process those plans, and it shouldn't hamper their decision on providing high speed throughout this town. So that was our approach.
We would charge Bell and Cogeco if we could, would we not?
Yes, we would. Yeah,
That's because they're for-profit organizations as well.
correct. But they fall under another franchise agreement. That's right.
Right. We're prohibited from charging them. So in some respects, NRBN is at a disadvantage, are they not?
Yeah, you could say so. Yep.
Okay. So anybody interested in moving to waive $400 fee? Councillor Butler? Is there any discussion with respect to that? Any comments? So this would be paragraph 3.8 of the agreement, which is found on page 6 of the report, IS 03-2020. If there are no other questions or comments, all those in favor of an amendment to waive the fee? Sorry, go ahead.
Are we the only other municipality beside Niagara-on-the-Lake, well, I know it's Niagara-on-the-Lake and Niagara Falls, that is being serviced by this organization?
No, they would go throughout Niagara.
I'm just wondering what the other municipalities do. What's the,
I don't know, Mr. Cook, would you know if other municipalities charge NRBN?
I don't recall. Mr. Walsh may know, but maybe Mr. Walsh could remind me as well. I believe the $400 charge was only going to pertain, or we would not charge it if they were going to service underserviced areas. Is that correct?
Mr. Walsh?
So through our negotiations, that idea was bantied back and forth. In the end, NRBN just said, you know what, charge the $400 wherever we go. So that's why it's in there worded as is.
That's because they wanted to get the agreement done, did they not?
Well, I was ready to go the other way, waiving it if they were to serve underserved ideas or areas, and it was their idea to just blanket it.
So you're on board if this is waived?
No.
That's what I thought you just said. Any other questions, Councillor Noyes?
yes, I'm just wondering if, not knowing what the other municipalities do, but on top of that, and I don't know the legal things, would we then be considered bonusing this particular organization over another organization? Do we charge, is there anybody else that provides, maybe not this specific service, but like services that we do charge for?
Are there any other infrastructure fiber optics providers?
Well, there are Bell and Cogeco, but you look at the broader sense. If a for-profit company comes in and wants to do something to town lands, such as a developer, they pay fees.
Again, my question is, are we then considered bonusing this organization? I'm not necessarily in favor of waiving the $400 because I think it was supposed to cover the cost of staffing, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not necessarily in favor of it. I'm just trying to get more information in regards to other services that we do charge for that may not be this particular company. It's a private company, right?
Well, so is Bell and Cogeco.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't see what the difference is, other than one may be non-for-profit and the other two aren't. But I mean, I don't know enough about the company to know if non-for-profit is maybe non-for-profit, but I don't know what their salaries are. Maybe the CEO is getting $1 million a year. I don't know. I just don't have enough information to waive the fee.
Right. That isn't really the point. The point is that Bell and Cogeco aren't paying for the review of the plans. Any other questions or comments on this issue, this amendment, this motion to amend? All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Okay, so that's defeated. Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, sorry, I do have another question on CAO 04-2020.
Yep, we're still on that. Oh. No, we're still on, yeah, okay, go ahead.
in regards to the two doctors, and I think it's wonderful that we are so successful in attracting doctors. I think it won't be long before we'll be at our complement. I do understand these two particular positions are going to are very well needed. Particularly, there's two doctors that are going to be retiring. But the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I had a chance to talk to Joanne today, is that these two doctors, which didn't come out in the thing, are going to take rostered. They're going to be rostered clients. So the benefit of that is that the clients will actually make appointments and not have to show up at a doctor's office and I'll see you when I see you, which is, I think, typical of the at Bertie Street now. Most of the doctors, you show up there, you could be seen in an hour, you could be seen in 3 hours, you could be seen in 4 hours, and you could stand most of the time because there's not enough chairs. So these two particular doctors are joining that practice, but you are going to be able to make appointments and have a 10 o'clock appointment, hopefully be seen close to that. I would encourage that as we move forward, that we encourage the doctors to allow their clients to make appointments as opposed to, come and sit and wait, and when I have time, I'll see you. Now, actually, I working in the healthcare industry, this is quite different. I would not have a doctor that I could not make an appointment with. My time's important too, and I'm also concerned about the seniors or anyone who's sitting there for 3 hours amongst other people. You don't go to the doctor because you're healthy. You go to the doctor because you're sick, and so you're sitting there for extended periods of time between people who are coughing and illness, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to congratulate that these two doctors are going to have rostered clients and make appointments. And I hope in the future we encourage that for any new doctors we attract.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add to Councillor Noyes' comments, I appreciate where she's coming from, and I know that there are some wait times, but I just want to say that since the addition of more doctors in our area, that hasn't really been predominantly the case. And so in fairness to all the other doctors who have been working hard and diligently to get their patients seen, I think that should be mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dolch, with respect to report PDS 04 2020, no, sorry, the condominium one, PDS 02 2020, there was some discussion earlier today with respect to ensuring that the assumption agreements, if this report is passed, that the assumption agreements are going to be registered on each of the new parcels created by the granting of the severance. And so I believe your view is that there should be an addition to the third paragraph that deals with holding the bylaw until certain things are done.
That is correct. Just to ensure, we currently got a letter from the solicitor just advising that it would be done, but just to give us a little more assurances, we can add into that second that
Be the third.
that we could add that the associated bylaw and exemption certificate be held pending written confirmation that the existing condominium agreement currently in place will remain in place and binding on the two new lots, and a payment of fee for the assumption.
Anyone like to move that? Councillor Lubberts? Are there any questions or comments with respect to that? That's just to make sure that the assumption agreement is going to in fact show up on title for both parcels once the severance is granted. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? That is carried. And then finally, Mr. Walsh, with respect to IS 04 2020, the tender for bridge and culvert dewatering. So we're going to be down to 7 bridges that we'll be working on as opposed to the original 10.
We're still doing the original 10, it's just with a different method under a different contract.
Okay. Thank you. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, then I'm going to call the question with respect to the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. And then that takes us to Planning and Development Services. Councillor Noyes.
Planning and Development Services is now in session. That brings us to report number PDS 03-2020, extension of draft plan approval, Nye Road draft plan of subdivision, 1589 Nye Road, north of Stevens Road, roll number 2703020010, 647010000, William. High Coop Upper Canada Consultants.
So moved.
The report's now on the floor for comments or questions. Mayor Redekop?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I had some questions with respect to this. I didn't want the delay in moving this to indicate that I'm not enthusiastic about this development, but I'm a little concerned because we're now in February of 2020. The last extension that was granted actually lapsed on November the 12th, 2018, and I'm wondering if staff can explain how the temporary extension by staff works with respect to the draft plan approval, since I would have thought that temporary would by definition exclude 15 months.
Ms. Dolch?
Through to the mayor. The temporary extensions under the planning policies that were approved by council allows staff to provide temporary extensions to developers. They do speak of 30-day extensions, but there's no specified time limit to those 30-day extensions until a request is received. So in this case, it has carried on for quite some time. I do know in the future we are looking at bringing those planning policies back to council for a bit of an update, so we can look at that point in time.
So at the present time, as I understand it, there is no time frame within which staff works in terms of temporary extensions of draft plan approval?
Kira?
Through you to the mayor. No, there's no specified timeframes. The only time we've actually taken away a draft plan approval is when we get no response after a certain period, or there's no movement on the file at all in terms of submissions of engineering drawings or anything, and there's no communication from them at all. At that point, we will give final notice, but we haven't. We've only done that once in the past.
Anything further?
I note that the letter from the consultant for the developer, which appears on page 7 of the report, is dated November the 12th, 2019, which is a year after the draft approval would have lapsed. Was there correspondence or communication from the owner or his representatives during that 1-year period?
Ms. Dolch?
Through you to the mayor. Yes, there was. They were trying to get a handle on the complications they're having out there at the current time with regard to grading and drainage, and whether or not they would have to extend that a bit further from the 1-year request, but they are proceeding with just to November 12th, 2020.
So
Further?
I'm going to support this simply because it's now 10 months to November the 12th. And I know that there's been a lot of work done recently with respect to this, but I do look forward to receiving a report from staff indicating how we can tighten up this particular procedure, because I don't think it's helpful for us to have a situation where staff is put in a position where they can be requested to ask for temporary extensions for more than a year. That just doesn't seem to make any sense, particularly at a time when a lot of the regulations that relate to these developments are changing over time. And so what was okay 10 years ago when this would have been originally approved may not be okay now in terms of land use planning and requirements of the Conservation Authority, the region, the province. So I'm looking forward to receiving that. Thank you.
So the report's now. Any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? The report carries. That brings us to report number PDS 05-2020, intend to amend Schedule A of bylaw number 3599, being a bylaw to designate lands. Oh, I think we've taken that off.
Yeah,
So
that's been
I'm going to
taken
skip
off.
that.
Right.
So that brings us to new business inquiries.
No, now you've got Communities in Bloom, which is PDS 06,
Okay.
part of the addendum.
Okay, that brings us to PDS 06 2020 for Erie Communities in Bloom Terms of Reference Update. Moved by Councillor Dubanow. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the report? The report carries. Now that brings us to new business inquiries, right? We don't have another one, do we? Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just a quick comment. I happened to speak with two individuals this week who were involved in various projects here in Fort Erie, working with planning staff. And on both occasions, they wanted me to convey just how great it was to work with our planning staff, particularly Ms. Dolch, Mr. Kovar, I hope I said his last name right. And also, although he's not with the planning department, they also had mentioned that Nick Chevalier as well had been very, very good to work with. So I just wanted to get it on the record, just express, I know Kira's sitting there right now. We have great planning staff here, and it's reflected, and it showed to the point where people actually reached out to me and had wanted me to share that. So I'm just mentioning that, and thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, that brings us to business status report. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, business planning development is now closed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noyes. That takes us to infrastructure services. Is that Councillor Lubberts?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Infrastructure Services is now in session. We have no presentations or delegations. We have a report IS 05-2020, Niagara Regional Solid Waste Collection. We have a mover, Councillor McDermott. Any comments or questions? Councillor Noyes?
Yes, I see that they're in the report, it talks about the increase in garbage receptacles that the BIA requested. What happens in areas where there is no BIA? Like, how do we find out? Like, I know Stevensville doesn't have a BIA, and I know Crescent Park doesn't have a BIA and has a business section. How do we go about finding what their needs are?
Mr. Walsh, is there any provisions for other areas?
Through you, Mr. Chair, are we speaking in terms of general waste collection or street side garbage containers?
I'm thinking about the street side garbage containers in the business areas, like the Crescent Park has that mini mall type thing. And I know Stevensville, we don't have a BIA, but we have a business downtown. I know that we have one receptacle. Actually, my husband was going to check to make sure it was still there. And I know that one's always full. Like, how do we find out? Like, how do you get feedback from the businesses that aren't associated with a BIA, like like business areas that don't have BIA?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, typically I would think for plazas, they would be responsible for their own waste receptacles outside their own doors. In areas where there's heavier pedestrian traffic out by the road, it's by word of mouth, I think. I haven't come across it in my my 4 years as director.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion, that report carries. We'll turn the page. That brings us to new business and inquiries. We had a memo from Mr. Hutton, and did anybody have any questions or comments? Mayor Redekop?
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question with respect to the beach security. Just wanted to make sure that the suggestion here is that we'll go with last year's security provider on the premise that there will be, for 2021, an RFP, so that we'll have some competitive bidding for 2021. Is that Is that exactly what this is driving towards?
Mr. Walsh?
For you, Mr. Chair, the plan is certainly to go with last year's provider this year. At the end of this beach season coming, we will make a report to council on what action we should be taking, whether that's RFP or it may be further the retention of the current provider. We haven't made up our mind one way or the other yet. It's not typical to sole source projects like this. That's why we're bringing it to council's attention. But those are our thoughts going forward.
So if we wait until the fall, is our staff going to have adequate opportunity if we say that we want an RFP? Because I personally think that we should put this out to an RFP for 2021 and maybe 3 or 4 years beyond that. Are we going to have enough time if we wait until the fall for staff to be able to put that together, or are we going to be met with the similar argument this year that it's a little late to be putting out an RFP?
For you, Mr. Chair, we'll make that decision very early in the fall, so we will have plenty of time to inform council on what we're recommending and why we're recommending it, which includes an RFP.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm supportive of this for 2020, but I do believe that we should be going to the market in 2021, in my view.
Anything further? No? Any other comments or questions? I just got, Mr. Walsh, the same thing with the security. In the report, it talks about last year, we went through some changes and we were gathering data and gathering information to see what other changes we could make. And so that didn't provide us with the time to go over security, and that's why we're here now. Now, are we going to do the same type of thing, like surveys and stuff, and talk to the users of the beach and the visitors and ask them how they feel and do some kind of survey to see what kind of services they would recommend? Are we going to do the same thing this year?
Yes, we brought forward the summer report last year with the survey results in it. We're due to the newness and magnitude of the Bay Beach changes down there. We as staff are still thinking of this as a pilot program, learning what's good and what's not. We've made some changes to our operations. We're going to see how those work, and we intend to do the surveys as well.
And will we be reaching out to some of the people that helped us with the surveys last year?
Yes, more than likely. Ms. Carlin and the other one, her name escapes me, I apologize. They did yeoman's work on behalf of the town, and we found their input very valuable.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Being none, that moves us to the business status report. Any
There
any other?
There might be other new
Yeah,
business.
any other new business or inquiries? Seeing none, that moves us to the business status report. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, infrastructure services is now in recess. Mayor Redekop, I'll turn the chair back over.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lubberts. That takes us to corporate and community services, which has no presentations or delegations, no reports, but we're going to see how quickly you can do this, Councillor Dubanow.
So I'll thank you very much, Your Worship. So corporate and community services, are there any new business or inquiries any members of council would like to bring up? Awesome. And questions regarding the business status report? Fantastic. So I guess in that case, corporate and community services is now closed, and I will return the chair to His Worship.
It's a new record, Councillor Dubanow.
Thank you.
Scheduling of meetings. Councillor Zanko and then Councillor Noyes.
Yes, there is a Fort Erie Active Transportation Committee meeting being held tomorrow here at Town Hall at 5:30 p.m. in Conference Room 1.
Councillor Noyes.
There is a playground meeting tomorrow for the Stevensville Mini Park, and it's going to be held at the Fire Station number 5 in Stevensville from 5 to 7 tomorrow.
Are there any other meetings? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. We have a community healthcare services meeting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. here at Town Hall. And also next week, there is a Fort Erie Public Library Board meeting on Tuesday, February 18th at 5:30, and that's in the boardroom at the Centennial Branch.
What day was that? Did you say yes, tomorrow?
Sorry, Tuesday, February 18th for the Library Board meeting.
Anyone else? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Dubanow. All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. So that then, Madam Clerk, I'm going to call a special council meeting to order right now. The roll call, please.
All members of council are present, Your Worship.
Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? This is a meeting that is going to deal with the balance of the agenda from January the 20th. So that takes us to motions, and Councillor Dubanow, you have a motion.
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that council directs staff to prepare a report on a public education campaign regarding the town's official plans, secondary plans, zoning bylaws, and other bylaws and/or provincial acts, which staff in their discretion feel appropriate, and how these plans, bylaws, and/or acts govern land use, planning, and development throughout the municipality. And with Your Worship's permission, I'd like to speak to this. Thank you. It very briefly, this has been an issue that's it's something I've been a little concerned about over my time as a new councillor here. Often I'll see people who are obviously concerned about move to a new neighborhood and they're unaware of what the zoning in the area permits. We heard that with some other things more recently, late in 2019 as well as early in 2020. So my hope is that perhaps we can have a report prepared by staff to provide some options on how we can educate residents on how zoning and other things such as the official plan, how they affect how land is used in the municipality, and how how one area we have certain things and how we have certain things in another, how we limit certain building types. Stuff like that. The staff had prepared some videos during the last term on building permits, variances, and stuff like that. And I found that they were very, very good. Perhaps that's something they might want to consider. But I'm always in favor of more education. The more residents know about these, the more they can make informed choices. And I'm hoping we can do something like that.
Councillor Noyes.
I'm all for educating the public, trust me. I'm just wondering what this is, I don't mean to be critical, but it's kind of vague in regards to what the costs would be from a staffing point of view, like how elaborate, how in depth is education campaign going to be? What are the costs associated with it? And what are the timelines of when would you hope that this report would come back to council? I would imagine that the report will have the costs and stuff, but I'm wondering how long it's going to take staff to prepare this report, particularly with the staffing issues right now.
Well, I'm going to go to Mr. Cookett because this is something that presumably is on your radar, and we do have a communications coordinator that I presume would be actively involved in this.
That's correct, Mayor. I think the report that's being requested here is for options on what type of education we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and the costs associated with each option, and then council make a decision what option they want to move forward with. So at this point, it's just preparing that report, and I would think, I'm looking at Ms. Dolch, but probably 6 weeks to have something completed, or am I being too optimistic here?
Thank you. If we could look into May, that would be great, unfortunately, just because of the lack of staff at this current time. And I do know if we are looking into the videos option, the gentleman who prepared our videos before has taken on another job, so I'm not sure he'll be available to do those. So trying to find some and a price quote for that.
And that timing is agreeable? Yeah. Okay. Anything further, Councillor Noyes? Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? That is carried. That then takes us to a closed session suggestion. Councillor Butler, you have a resolution for us to move into closed session.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council does now go into closed session at 6:40 p.m. to discuss the following. A, pursuant to Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality of local board regarding former Ridgeway Crystal Beach High School.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. All right, we're back in open session. Councillor Zanko, you have a motion for us to formally rise and reconvene from closed session?
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:16 PM without report.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Dubanow, you have first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that bylaw number 17-2020 to confirm the actions of council at its council and budget committee meeting number 3 held on January 22nd, 2020, and its council and committee meeting held on February 10th, 2020, and its special council meeting held on February 10th, 2020 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Lubberts, third and final reading for the confirmatory bylaw.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott. That bylaw number 17-2020 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Dubanow, I want you to know I had nothing to do with this. Councillor McDermott, motion to adjourn.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that council adjourns at 7:17 PM to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on February 18th, 2020.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.